So the host thing that I mentioned before, I was shocked at just how many people all over the world have made
Okay, I'm
these
sorry.
offers.
Right, listen, we're going to have to cut to the chase on this bullshit. You saying, can I stay with you? And someone going, yeah, sure, sounds good. Is not the same as getting someone to do some fucking charity work or whatever.
Seen that
Okay,
success or any
right,
of
we've
those
got a
off
bit
the
of a
table.
problem here.
But that was mostly because my dumbass, and I'm definitely not doing this anymore, spent like hours with Aiko talking with her about it and helping her figure it out.
The problem is, you benefit directly from these things. No, I didn't. You have absolutely changed what you're saying now. How much of it is genuine held belief and how much of that is fear? I can't ask someone to engage in labor that would end in me making money and not pay them for that. That seems crazy to me. What do you want me to do? How long do I need to do it for? And how much are you going to pay me? And that's it. That's all I'm interested in. I don't give a shit about your fucking VPN company, okay? Who fucking cares? Anyway, I think we're getting a call. Hello?
What? Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. It's been a while. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Ready to have a little chat. It has been too long, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think it has. When was the last time we talked on stream?
I can't even remember. It was a long time ago.
I think it was when I shit talked your editor and came on and talked about that. I think that was the last thing.
Oh yeah, that was a good meme. Damn,
Yeah.
it feels so long ago now, doesn't it?
Yeah, so much changes in that time. Have you had the opportunity to move house yet or no?
Yes, I've moved. I'm in my new place. Everything's going lovely, I must say. Although, I don't know. There's not a lot going on at the moment, I feel, in the content creation world. So I'm kind of a bit like trying to find the content where I can. I feel like I'm looking for scraps of food in a bin. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, there's been a few different things. There's been, I mean, setting aside real life events, because all of those have been tragic and unfortunate. There's been Vosh recently with a kind of shift in rhetoric towards violence. There's been the Mr. Girl abuse arc. How have you liked those?
So the Vosh stuff, well, the Mr. Girl abuse arc, it's difficult because I can't watch Mr. Girl content on Twitch. They're really cracking down on that, unfortunately. So, yeah, I've not really followed that too much. Maybe you can fill me in briefly on what's going on. Still the real doll stuff, right? He wants his missus to be a doll.
Like in an uncharitable way, for sure. I think that's like a TLDR. I think that people have less of a problem that he wants her to like lay down there and take it, and more of a problem with the way that he spoke to her in that conversation, where like kind of criticizing her for crying, saying that she's manipulative and controlling, showing the interview on video when she said she didn't want it to be in the video and she didn't want to be in the video anymore. So that there was quite a few things where he's kind of trampling over what she's saying, twisting her words a bit, calling her controlling and abusive. And I think that's what was off-putting to people there.
Okay. And yeah, the Vosh stuff was interesting. So yeah, I mean that's kind of what we're. Well, I don't really know what we're talking about today. I'm sure we can get to that. How are you doing? You're in where are you at the moment? You're in Europe somewhere, right?
Yeah, I'm in Norway, and actually next next couple of weeks I'll be in the United Kingdom.
Oh damn! What are you up to over here?
I had a viewer who offered to host me there for a little bit, so I'll be in Manchester hanging out, and maybe at some point I could make my way down. I know the rail system is so there, but maybe I could make it down and visit you at some point.
Yeah, I mean if it's possible, it's quite far away, but if you manage to make it down, we could definitely meet up. That'd be fun.
Yeah, that would be cool. It'd be interesting to finally put like a face to the streamer if it's possible, and then we'll
Yes,
not be
exactly.
parasocial anymore.
Exactly. You'd have to keep it a close secret though.
Ah, yes. Well, you leaked today that you had a beard.
Wait, how do you know about that?
Oh, Chud, I do watch your streams.
Yeah, of course. I mean, listen, I'm not surprised. They're absolute bangers every time. But yeah, okay. So, what are we talking about today? You said you wanted to talk about some drama or something.
Yeah, so I have a ton of stuff. Like, I'm interested in hearing kind of like updated Chud's ideas about spice and content. Because, like,
Hmm.
back when we used to talk in the Mindwaves Discord all of the time, I got like early Chud's opinions on those things. And I'm interested now that you've kind of had solid footing in the space and you're doing really well with your streaming, like how that's changed at all. I think that's one thing to talk about. Another is the topic that's beat to death, but I haven't heard all of your opinions about it regarding like the future of Twitch politics or the space or whatever, or the React
Yeah.
meta. But those are definitely two huge ones, I think.
Okay. Well, this is quite interesting for me because I've definitely changed my opinion and perspectives on a lot of stuff over the last couple of years. So I can't even remember what my views were back in the Mindwaves era. But I've definitely changed. What did I say?
So what I recall was and I don't think this much has changed, like broad strokes, like you need to make content that is interesting to people. What people in the space seem to find interesting is the drama and is the spice. So your job and the job of other people, whether they're managing panels or hosting conversations, is to try and get that content and get that spice out of people in the best way possible, while also kind of balancing your position as the moderator or the host of those conversations. And we talked a bit about that, a bit about how educational stuff or positive content is something that people just flat out aren't interested in. And if you continue to pursue that, it's unlikely that you would grow as a streamer, because few people have, done that at all and been successful. And your frustrations of people who are outside the space, who aren't hosts, who aren't doing these panels, criticizing people who are doing that. So I see a lot of these themes kind of pick up in like your modern day coverage of stuff, like when you kind of got into some trouble talking about the size of a smaller streamer, or I think the spice thing has been like a recurring theme. But it seems like you're aware of some changes. I'm curious, like, what are some things that pop out to you that you've kind of changed your mind on?
Well, I think that I'm just a bit more um, reckless, I would say, these days. And what I mean by that is, I think even back then, I had like, because there's a clip of me talking about the dangers of bringing like random people onto your stream, and it's something I would just happily do now, because I think that, and this is something I think that was kind of sold to me, and that was quite a popular narrative that was presented in the space, that if you have certain people on your stream, it's going to end in like some sort of calamitous disaster, you know.
Mm.
No, I don't really feel like anyone has ever really been able to conclusively say this is what will happen, but it's just kind of vague generalities about, promoting and platforming certain people leads to certain changes, leads to certain, people believe certain things, and so on and so on and so on. And I just don't really think that's
Mm.
true. I think that the risks of having certain people on your stream are often massively overstated. And it more often is that people just don't want to hear certain things, or don't want to contend with certain ideas on their stream. So I think I'm probably, not as worried about that anymore. And I probably just have lent more into the idea. I'm quite cynical. I'll admit that I'm quite cynical about this space. And I probably even back then had some level of hope that maybe there was more that could be done to turn it into a more political venture or something, or get more people involved or whatever. But I think, yeah, now I'm extremely cynical about that, based on the evidence of like what's actually happened and what was come out of this space from a political perspective. So, yeah.
Hmm. Kind of piggybacking off of that, when you first started out and you were thinking about getting people politically involved, what were some like solid concepts you had in mind for getting people involved? Like, what are some of the things that you wish people were doing or you wanted to do yourself?
Well, back then, when I very first started, I remember I did a stream and I talked about like the future of the channel when I had like 30 viewers, or maybe like 20 viewers, even, maybe even less than that. And my idea was that, I would be able to get to a stage where I have got enough of a viewership that I'm earning a steady income from what I'm doing. And then I'd be able to put more time and effort into some sort of like more direct advocacy or some sort of political action, like maybe creating a guide for people of how to get involved in politics and talk about it more on stream, and so on and so on and so on. And it's like, people criticized Mike for this. And, I think that maybe there is some criticism somewhere. But remember Mike from PA said, I don't want to talk about local politics because people will stop tuning in. And
Yeah.
it's like, that's true. That's just true. People don't give a shit. People don't give a shit about that sort of thing. I think Mike's issue is that he tried to present it as, well, I'm talking to a bigger audience and that's more important. But that's bullshit. You don't want to risk your stream going down the toilet because you're talking about things that people aren't interested in. Especially if you rely on it for income. So I think the reality is, if you do want to focus on that, you're just going to be resigned to the fact that your channel probably isn't going to really go anywhere. And if you do talk about it and your channel is bigger, you're just going to end up cutting your viewership and hurting yourself financially. Which again, if you rely on it for your income, you're not going to want to do. Like, why would you do something which is going to mean you earn less money, unless you can afford to do that, right?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Do you think that? Yeah, it makes sense to me. Like, if you make your whole stream about this boring thing that people don't want to watch, then you're kind of like handicapping your success from the outset. However, I wonder if there is an argument to be made about some kind of balance there, where like if you're streaming 5 or 6 days a week, or in some case, like I recently talked to Zach App, he's streaming 7 days a week, 60 something hours a week. I think it was like 68 when we averaged it out.
Wait, what?
The idea of taking,
I know
yeah,
that.
he
I know that
streams a
person.
lot.
Yeah, Jesus, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's an awful lot. So when I was talking with him about like, if you really want to accomplish real world change, why don't you dedicate some time to like being available via Discord and Discord DMing people and like keeping track of what they're trying to do? Like, okay, what's your zip code? Here are the 3 like places that you could volunteer near you. I'll call them and make sure that like they're ready to receive you and whatever. And on this day you can go in and I'll follow up with you the next day after that, whatever. He was talking about not having enough time for that. And then we brought up the streaming hours. And it's like, well, if you're streaming 68 hours a week, you could take 8 hours out of that, dedicate that per week to like the Discord thing, and you'd be Gucci. That's so much time to spend on Discord that I doubt you'd even hit it. So I wonder if there is an idea that like spending a stream segment every stream focused on whatever it is that you and your community are doing that are real. I wonder if that is the solution there, not focusing all of your content on that, because like you said, it'll handicap yourself. It's not what people want to watch, but like inserting it and sandwiching it between the stuff that people like. I wonder if that's where we should push people towards.
I mean, yeah, like sure. I'm sure that there's a way you could squeeze in that sort of content. I think the issue comes in when, if you're chasing, because you're incentivized to get viewers. The more viewers you have, the more money you make. Partnership is incentivized, etc., etc. I think you just end up in this cycle where every day it's about chasing the viewers and chasing the result and getting the best possible stream that you can. And I certainly found this back when I had this idea of doing this, is when I thought about, well, when am I going to do that? It's like, well, I'm growing my channel, I want more viewers, etc., etc. And it's like, it just becomes something that's kind of a chore to do, and it's like, it's something that it might be the right thing to do to help the political side of things, but it's not necessarily going to be something that benefits your channel, right? So it becomes something that you kind of put off and put off and put off, and then you never end up doing it, So yeah, I don't know. I at this point, I'm just extremely black-pilled on the idea that even doing that would be worth it, because even if I did an 8-hour stream and dedicated my time to telling people how they could, do stuff in the local area, even if there was like an impact to that, like I don't even know how I'd measure that. How I don't even know how I'd check if that was effective. And it just sounds fucking boring. I don't know.
Yeah.
Which is a failing on my part, I agree, I admit that, like, it's I wish I could be like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking do this and spend this time doing that. But when you look at the cold light of day, and it's like, well, what benefit is this bringing about? Maybe some benefit of someone doing stuff, but I don't even know if it's going to work, and I don't even know how I track the effectiveness of it. And it's kind of the fact that the biggest kind of political thing that I think has probably come as a result of this space is Destiny's canvassing, right? And famously, that was, you know, a pain in the ass more than being something that he would be wanting to do again in anytime soon. Particularly after the second one for the, what was it, the Gudgel campaign, where he got kind of fucked over with people, you know, shitting on him over it.
Yeah. Um, so to kind of break that down, like how would you know it's effective? I think like these are the kinds of questions that I'm hearing like behind the scenes from streamers and from the people I'm talking with publicly. Like I've heard this now from you, from Zach App as well. I think taking some like basic business ideas like key performance indicators and using those to guide what you're doing is solid. So like with Zach App, he wants to do gardening stuff and he wants to help people do gardening. So maybe the number of people in a month or in a quarter that he's able to get confirmed that they have started volunteering, and maybe even the number of hours they're volunteering, or how many people have been able to start gardens or engage in like guerrilla gardening where they're dropping seed bombs locally that are like plants and flowering plants and stuff like that that are good for the environment there. I think that would be his key performance indicators. And if you wanted to do something and you wanted people to volunteer in local campaigns or for local organizations, maybe you would measure it by like the number of hours that people have been putting into it. So I think figuring out a key performance indicator for that kind of project is the easier part. And then the second part, like how I would even do that, how I would go about doing that, I think a simple like 5-minute call to action, maybe 2 or 3 times a stream in between the content, where you just like go to your Discord, you talk about how people could get started in it and some success stories that are involved with it once you get the ball rolling, would probably be an easy way not to take away from your content or not to have things become boring. And you don't even necessarily need to be the one that runs it. So usually I find that with the Twitch viewers, there's a lot of free time and a lot of energy where they want to do something, but they're like chickens with their heads cut off. So they're just running around doing nothing productive and they need somebody to kind of guide and lead them. I'd imagine if you gave somebody the task and put them in front of a spreadsheet with like Discord usernames and made them the point of contact, that it would be easy for one person in the community to keep up with these folks and make sure that they're meeting, their personal obligations or their personal desires to go out and do whatever it is that you're encouraging them to do. So I think all that's possible. As far as the Destiny thing, like I think canvassing is like a really huge thing to do, especially when it's boots on the ground and you're expecting people to come out. He was doing a really hard thing. Plus, he was making it super specific and super public. Like if Zach was encouraging people to do gardening, it would be difficult to like hurt Zach's operation because it would be so grassroots and so private. Like you wouldn't know the individuals unless you're a part of the organization that are helping with that stuff. So hurting the efforts, I feel like would be a lot more difficult. And that would be the way I would see that happening. If a lot of it's private, then I think it's more difficult to hurt it. Whereas if you're a part of like a public campaign, then they have a point of ingress where they can leverage whatever kind of things you've been saying to hurt that campaign and by extent hurt you, right?
Yeah, I guess the thing that I think about all of this though is you have people who like they do. The thing is, you don't even know their names on most of the time because they're like literal, 10, 15, 20 viewer Andes. And it's like they dedicate their entire streams to this sort of advocacy, or they claim to. They claim to do all of this stuff. And it's like, even with that dedicated audience, I wonder what percentage of their audience actually does stuff. And like, would that flip over to like a political audience if you did it with a political audience? I don't know. I mean, at this point, I feel super cynical about all of it. So it's just like, I don't know. I just think it's all a waste of time.
Yeah, I think,
And I don't know how
and
to
I
get
don't
out of
blame
that.
you.
I don't know how to fucking get out of that. And I think, right, we've got 2 years, 2 years, 6 months I've been involved in all of this shit, right? And it's like, you can count on 2 hands the number of like meaningful political action that's occurred as a result of this that isn't just fucking, in my opinion, larpy shit. So, I can't help but just feel cynical about the idea that this space is anything beyond just an entertainment hub for people who want to have politically themed entertainment content.
Yeah, like And we're returning to like when people try and like make it their whole stream, they do run into problems with it, and it is going to tank their stream. And I think that that's probably the idea that like we need to move away from, is the idea that like you'll make it your entire stream or whatever, because then you're just going to tank your stream. I think what's a lot easier is like what I was saying earlier with like little 5 minute calls to
But
action. Like we
but
already.
sure. But the thing is, would the 5 minute calls to action do anything? And yeah, I know you can just say, "Well, just try it and see what happens." I just think to like sponsorships I've done where the call to action is like really fucking simple. It's literally download this game and play it for a bit. And you've got 300, 400 viewers, and it's like, one, two, three, like, over the course of a stream, you'll have 20, 30 people say do it. And that's like that's just asking someone to download a game by scanning a QR code on the screen. With this, you're doing only a 5 minute call to action, and what you're asking of them is to, I mean, I don't know exactly, but sign up with some local organization to get off your ass and go and do some shit in the real world.
Mhm.
It seems like I don't know, maybe I'm just too black pilled, but it seems like a big ask that is going to like have a meaningful impact on people actually doing stuff. Or we were going to be sat there going, oh God, he's doing his thing about fucking going and doing some shit. I'll just wait till he's finished. And then we get back to the content, And the thing is as well,
Yeah.
if it was such a good idea, why aren't loads of big streamers doing it? Why do no big political streamers do this shit? Why is it all just content, content, content?
Yeah. So I guess to break
Sorry to
that
be so
down, like,
cynical, but I
no,
don't know. I'm being honest. I'm being honest about my feelings, okay?
yeah. I guess maybe it's helpful to substitute some of my own experiences. So, like,
Hmm.
when I do the calls to action about traveling and about, like, hey, could you host me? That is a huge ask for people. But I've managed to, with every single Europe trip, book enough people to basically, if I really wanted to, do that the entire trip. Logistically, it's not always possible to do that because it doesn't make sense to go spend like 3 or 4 days here and then jump across the entire continent over to here, and like timing and stuff doesn't always work out. But like that is a huge ask, and a lot of people are willing to do that. And I think a lot of people are really willing to do political action as well. And to the point about the viewership and stuff, yeah, there are going to be some people that want to tune out from it and they wait till you're done. Granted, they don't have to wait very long if it's a 5 minute thing, but there will also be a non-insignificant number of people who might stick around for your content specifically because it's something you're doing in the background. Like, I think that you mentioned the canvassing in Georgia. That was quite some time ago, and Stephen is still writing that kind of good PR from that for quite a while. And same with maybe Vosh doing charity streams, and even Hassan viewers talking about the charity work that Hassan has done. So I think it could actually be good for your brand as well. And as far as why don't the big streamers do this and stuff, I just don't think there's a lot of good examples of people doing it, which is why like we just kind of have to start doing it. Like I'm trying to do that now with like the BIA, this kind of organization in the Discord where I'm having people help me like write stories and do research and teach them like how I would do that if I was writing a paper or something, how to check sources, how to form arguments that are only based on what it is that you're watching or what it is that you're listening to or reading. Um, and I've seen a lot of success in that as well. And I think if it's not going to be for everybody, but if you're getting like 5 or 6 people, presumably, maybe we lean towards five as like a conservative estimate. If you're getting 5 people to start volunteering on a regular basis every single month, I think that's huge. Like especially with our audience sizes. And I think that there is an itch in a lot of us to do something more with this, so we don't feel black pilled like you do now. And if 5 viewers a month, that's 60 in a year that you get to habitually, or once every quarter to do volunteering. I think that's really big, and that could have an impact both like on your brand and maybe on you personally, and it can make you feel better about everything that you're doing. So that's kind of my thinking there.
So the thing is, because the start you said about, your thing is you get people to kind of host you, right?
Mhm.
I think that the issue there is that if you ask someone to host you, they're getting something out of the transaction too, in that they're able to hang out with you, Mr. Streamer Man, right?
Mm.
So there's quite a big, I guess, reward for the person that would say yes to that. And I think that's going to motivate people to do that more so than just saying, hey, go and give up your time for free to feel good about yourself.
Yeah, and you could definitely rework your call to action and what you're offering with the volunteer thing to make up for that, right? So like if you had a, a once a week Discord thing where for an hour or two you bring in the people who are confirmed to have volunteered into like a Discord call where they can talk with you, that hour of your time and those 5-minute segments could really be worth it, and that could maybe shift the balance for people because then they'll get that personal interaction with you if that's the currency there. Though to be fair, a good number of my hosts have invited me over when they're like working a lot or they're not home. So like right now in Norway, my host is gone for 2 weeks and he left me with the house. We're probably going to hang out for maybe a maximum of like 4 days or something like that during the whole stay. So it's definitely an incentive for people, but people are still doing other things that kind of go against that idea as well.
Um, I see someone in chat saying, "Does Bookie think he's going to get Chud to do something like that?" I think we're just talking about ideas. I don't know if this is like an intervention or anything, but it's just talking about ideas. I think. No, that's interesting. So, like, yeah, some people just, you know, are these people that are like big in your community, or like how does it work?
Actually, the funny part is a lot of them are either VOD watchers or they don't watch anymore. Like my current host is like, I'll be honest, I don't really watch much anymore because I've started doing stuff for like the Red Cross and whatever. He's an older guy, but in part because of stream and in part because of personal stuff in his life, he decided that he was going to start doing training and stuff to volunteer for the Red Cross, and that's taken up so much of his time that he hasn't really spent a lot of time on the stream. So and I'd say that most, maybe like 80 or 90% of the people that have hosted me don't watch regularly, or if they do, it's in VODs. So I was surprised by that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe there's a way. I just, yeah, I just there's like an absolute shroud of cynicism that exists in my head over this topic, and some people really fucking criticize me for it, and it's just like I don't know. I'm just like I don't know what to say anymore. It is what it is in my head, but
Hmm. Well, like you were saying earlier with that chatter, like I don't think the point of this is to convert you. If anything, I want to try bouncing these ideas off of more people
hmm.
so that I can understand better, like, what are the barriers to that, like mentally, emotionally, whatever? Why are the reasons that we don't see more streamers doing it? And if it's something like, oh, well, if my whole content was that, then my channel would fall apart. Like, okay, well, there's easy counter arguments to that. Or if it's like, oh, it would take too much of my time. Well, if you stream over 250 hours a month, then you seem to have plenty of time to dedicate to this. Or if it's about the money or something like that, like, oh well, we can reduce the amount of time it takes up on your stream. So the point of this is more so to get ideas from somebody who is black pilled about this. Like, I'm just interested in your perspective, and if you end up doing it, that's rad, but definitely not like the intent here.
Yeah, I think the other thing as well that I found is like it could be like frustrating sometimes, especially when you're the topic of conversation. Um, but I enjoy talking about and covering drama as well, and it's
Hmm.
like I think that one aspect of it, and I imagine even people like Hassan and Vosh and others probably feel the same, but it's like you want to talk about what you want to talk about. Like the whole point of someone becoming a content creator is that you have that flexibility to kind of do what you want to do with your platform and do what you want to do with your time at work, so to speak. So the idea that you have to kind of do something that maybe is a bit more like a chore and not as fun to do, maybe that's a barrier too. You just kind of, oh, fucking hell. I know there's stuff that I should need to do. I need to sort out, which I just kind of put off and put off and put off because I can't be fucked to do it. I'd rather just find some new funny drama to talk about, or look at Twitter and see what's going on there. When really there's something you should be focused on. So
Yeah.
procrastination can be an issue there as well, I think.
Yeah. And one thing I've been considering to help with a lot of this is make the systems so that they're kind of plug and play for different streamers, depending on what it is that they want to do. And maybe even start like a separate Discord server where like I will help find people from my community that are willing to help with the project, and you could find people in your community willing to help with the project, and we funnel them all into like the same kind of point of contact where it's like, okay, message this Discord account, tell them what community you're from and what it is that you want to do, and then we'll have like maybe a handful of people who can respond on that account and respond to these people or respond in that server. So like I think there are solutions for all of these problems. It's more so right now about like identifying what those hurdles are. But yeah, like you said, it could be boring, it could be a chore, but and you don't have to answer this honestly because I know they are your sponsors, but I also think it's a bit boring and a bit of a chore to have to do the sponsor plugs and stuff as well. And you do it because you want money, and that's going to be the incentive there. But on the flip side, I think people would be willing to dedicate like a 5 minute call to action because it feels good, or it's something where like it is the good that a lot of us thought we were going to do when we started streaming, and we just haven't done it either because of procrastination or because we were black pilled or whatever else. And I think that that can be fulfilling in and of itself. And we do already do stuff that's like boring on stream or stuff that we don't want to do. Like we're constantly making compromises in our content, even if it's broadly speaking, like hour per hour, what it is that we want to cover.
I guess that's such a lovely idea. There's a couple of things I'm going to say. I'm just going to be super cynical, okay? It is what it is. So, the first thing, in regards to the Discord thing, the first thing I just think about that is, you know, I'm sorry to be the old man saying shit, okay? But that's the way I feel. I've seen it all before, okay? I've seen the Discords. Oh, we're going to organize this. Oh, we're going to organize that. And, you know, I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed going into them when I first started. Like, oh, yeah, let's go. We're going to do something here. And you just see it all start to fritter away. And then the second time, and then the third time, and then the fourth time. And you just get to the point. And this is the thing I think people don't see, is you don't see behind the scenes. And you don't see the kind of, like, the crumbling away of that eagerness that occurs as you just see each subsequent thing happen again and again and again and again, you know? And it's just like, to hear someone say, well, you just start a Discord and you get people in that. I'm like, yeah, great idea. But in practice, in my experience, it tends to be that those things just sort of fritter away into nothing as people get bored and fuck off. So I guess if I want to be positive, okay, the thing that I'd have to say is like, well, what do we learn from the mistakes? What do we learn from the issues, etc., etc.? And what I keep coming back to is that is not what people are here for on the whole. So the amount of people that are in for that are minimal. There's people that might think they're into it and try it and then get bored and fuck off. And then you're left with a few people who maybe really are feeling it, but they just end up fucking off as well because they realize no one's really that interested in doing that in this space. So yeah, I don't know. It feels like there's a big problem of like the kind of it's kind of all been done before. And the other thing as well in regards to the sponsorship thing is it a chore to tell people to download some fucking mobile game? Yes, it is. However, I'm getting paid fucking, you know, a 4-figure amount of a reasonable amount to do it. So there's a big incentive for me to fucking keep doing it until I hit the goal. Whereas, and also it's very obvious. So I say, download the game. Another person downloads the game. Bang, it pops up on the thing. Fantastic. Keep going. I've got a goal that I can track, you know? So that's something for me, having worked in sales, that I can look at very closely and deal with, and it makes sense to me. But then when it's just like, hey, go and volunteer, good luck, and then there's nothing to demonstrate that you're moving towards something, yeah, it just doesn't have the same feeling, you know?
Yeah, for sure. When you're talking about this frittering away, you're talking about like people over time drop into and out of doing the volunteer thing. Am I understanding that right, or is it that streamers end up dropping it?
Okay, I'll give you a real life example. Okay, so that we had this thing. This was back. Oh my god, it's so cringe to think about now. We had this thing back when I first started. Okay. It was called Rev Team or Rev Team 7 or something like that, right? And it was like, oh yeah, all these content creators are going to get together and we're going to have this little group and we're going to support each other and we're going to do content about the Rev Team. We're going to have a little theme song and all this shit. And there was like these content creators in the Discord. Everyone was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, okay? And they were like, oh yeah, let's fucking do this. They're in the Discord talking all the time, communicating ideas, stuff like that. And then there was like some drama, and someone got kicked out for being a transphobe or some shit. And then there was some more drama and someone else got kicked out. And then, people get less interested and this person leaves, that person leaves. And before you know it, you got a Discord with like 3 people in it. No one's interested anymore. And it ends up getting shut down. And that's content creators. That's content creators. People have got something of a vested interest in getting involved in this sort of thing, to boost their content or whatever. And then it just ends up frittering away to nothing. And I just feel like, having that with just viewers, it tends to be even worse in my experience. It's just, I don't know. That's what I mean. It just kind of, people just leave, and you don't replenish the people, and people lose interest, and they just fuck off and go back to watching some Bloodsport shit.
I gotcha. Okay. And I don't want you to think that you're turning me off or anything by telling me these things, because I am here to hear them. Um, like when I hear this, my optimistic brain is thinking, well, this is like a bounce problem. Like people are bouncing from what you're asking them to do, and the solution there would be to figure out why it is that they're bouncing, right? So if it's streamers figuring out why they stopped engaging with the project, if it's they stop engaging with the project because there isn't clear direction on actually accomplishing things. And while it was fun to talk about ideas for like a month straight, it's no different than talking about the ideas on your stream. So it felt like a waste of time or energy. Or if it's something like, oh, well, I have no clear indication that this is actually converting people to be volunteers or accomplishing anything, then you would make clear to different streamers what it is that you are accomplishing every single week or every single month or every quarter. And that could help with that. But yeah, I see these problems as things to be solved, and not
Mm.
necessarily like the death of the thing. But that's because I'm a bit more optimistic after seeing success in my community and in Stevens and in others, where I'm like, okay, well, I think that like if we could even get 1 or 2 people to start doing it or to become regular members from each individual channel, that could be huge. Because if we get 5 streamers together, that's like 10 people, and 10 more people volunteering is a hell of a lot better than the 0 that would have existed without it, right?
Well,
And
hang on a sec. What's happening in Destiny's community?
oh, I mean like his efforts at like IRL organizations, stuff like that, or
What's
like
going
Vosh's with
what
charity.
what's going on with that now though? Has that not had the
Uh,
same frittering away effects? I mean, I'm
it,
sure. I'm not
yeah,
trying to denigrate anyone. I'm sure there's some people as well that have kept going with their organizing or whatever. Like, I'm not trying to denigrate anyone, but I'm just saying, like, I don't know if there's like a massive thing in Destiny's community of people organizing on a political level. Is there?
Um, there are some people that kept going after Georgia that I've kept in contact with, but it's not made to be a focal point of the stream. And Steven has kind of moved away from organizing it. And
Welcome to
so
Chud
I think
Nation.
like at the top level of things that need to be done, you have to have some people involved that are willing to commit for like a year straight before reevaluating it. And that's a position where I'm willing to occupy it, because like I've already done this stuff. So for me, it's like, well, adding one more Discord to like my list of to-dos every single day to like manage doesn't seem like it would be all that big of an ask in terms of hours of work per week. But yeah, I think the streamer losing interest in it, and we talked before about why that failed, like the kind of public facing and linking yourself up with a campaign let people kind of put a wedge there. And if they could put pressure on the Gudgel campaign or Mark Gudgel in particular, then that was their way of kind of destroying the entire thing. We talked how like Zach App or some other people, if you're focused on in private getting these people to do volunteering stuff and keeping up with them and figuring out what the hours they're doing, or getting them to take pictures of what it is that they're doing so you could share those in these calls to action, that would be a simple way of kind of getting around that problem. Um,
Okay, so I think that. I mean, listen, it's difficult enough to manage my own Discord. I'm even I'm trying to restructure my mod team so I don't have to take any sort of direct role in managing day-to-day affairs, because it's a fucking nightmare. So managing a whole other Discord just seems like a. I mean, you'd have to have people that you really trust in there, I think.
Yeah, 100%. And if you don't have that figured out already, you probably wouldn't be the one that would be in charge of organizing the Discord. But if you were cool with doing a call to action for like 5 minutes on your stream and I could get you bought into that, if I was running the Discord with maybe some of the same mod team that I found success with in the last 2 years on my Discord, then like I could definitely solve that problem in a way that maybe you would not be able to. So we would kind of figure out what the strengths and weaknesses are and operate off of those, I would think.
Okay. I just, I just think you're really fucking naive. I'm sorry to feel if that sounds mean. I don't mean it to be. I'm sure I sound really fucking
Mhm.
cynical. But like, yeah, I hear all this stuff, and I'm just like, okay, like, yeah, this is not going. This is not going to fucking happen.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It just seems like pie in the sky. Like, if this was all such a fucking great idea, why is it not happening en masse already? It's because there aren't that many people that are interested in that. And they just want to
Yeah.
watch people fucking tear strips out of each other, or whatever drama's popping off. I don't know.
I I think there's a lot of reasons why it doesn't work. And you're acutely aware of a lot of them. Like you make your entire stream about this, you're going to lose your viewership and you're going to lose the kind of leverage on communities that would have allowed you to do this thing in the first place. You make it publicly about a single campaign and you allow people to kind of ruin that by simply trolling the one thing that you're trying to do. If you don't keep up with it or you don't have leadership that keeps up with it, it's going to fall apart. If you don't have a clear like outline of what it is that you're trying to accomplish and you're not keeping up with those numbers, it's going to fall apart. If you don't have people that are managing a Discord properly and like
Mm,
religiously, it will fall apart and you're not, and so I think all these problems are real and you've seen time and time again why these things have failed for different reasons. And I just think that like somebody just has to dedicate the time to fixing them. And I'm not saying it needs to be the other streamers. What I'm thinking at this point is like I would be willing to take a swing at it. And if it doesn't work, then I can be blackpilled like you too. But if it does work and we do and I do see the same success I've seen with like other stuff, like that's why it's not as pie in the sky to me because I've done this with
mm,
other things and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I have some hope here because when I look at other things that I've tried to do along the same veins, they have been successful. Even recent things that I've tried to do, and that's the reason why I'm considering it now, whereas I didn't before. For all the reasons that you mentioned. I used to be way more black pilled, similar to you.
Okay, well, look, let's bring up the temperature of positivity in the conversation. Tell me about the success you're talking about. What are we dealing with?
Yeah. So the host thing that I mentioned before, I was shocked at just how many people all over the world have made
Okay, I'm
these
sorry.
offers.
Right, listen, we're gonna have to cut to the chase on this bullshit. You can't use the hosting as an example. Okay, it's not the same
Okay.
thing, right?
Okay.
You saying, "Can I stay with you?" and someone going, "Yeah, sure, sounds good," is not the same as getting someone to do some fucking charity work or whatever. Okay.
Fair enough. Let's move to the other one.
Okay.
So recently, I think in the last maybe 2 or 3 months, I've been working on this thing called the BIA, the Booksmarts Intelligence Agency, where we have people open source and contribute to stories and research around a lot of different topics, ranging from like things about the Supreme Court and Roe v. Wade, all the way to drama stories, like you said. So, getting people who are interested in drama to help make sure that the drama content they want covered is on the stream. Prior to that, I had the transcribing and the commenting efforts with a lot of my reviews, and that was relatively successful. And then right now, and what's finally coming to fruition for me, another really good project has been the BGG website. All of these things had stumbles in the very beginning, but it was through like figuring out what the problems were and working those out with people where like now I'm managing teams where if we were add up all the people, we're at maybe 20 to 30 different people, and it's going relatively smoothly. So those are maybe three good examples of where I've seen that
Okay.
success. Or any of
Right, we've
those
got a
off
bit
the
of a
table?
problem here, my friend. Okay.
Sure.
The problem is you benefit directly from these things. If you've got a bunch of people doing shit for you for free for research, you're benefiting from that, right?
Mm.
So,
Yeah, and
right, but that's not the
like
same
we
thing
talked
because
about.
that's not the same thing as what we're talking about, is it? If you're benefiting from it, yeah, you're fucking incentivized to make it good so that you can benefit more.
Yeah. I don't know if this point got across when I mentioned it earlier, but like the benefit for me personally in starting something like this would be like feeling like there's some purpose to the streaming stuff that I'm doing, kind of like filling a void that hasn't been filled there for activism and stuff like that, like making use of these people that they're politically educated, they're politically motivated. It's just they're not taking the next steps to doing something. And that would be like an interesting problem for me to tackle. So that's kind of the incentive there for me. But when I'm looking at something like the drama stuff, like there have been plenty of projects we've worked on that don't come to fruition and don't end up giving me the benefit, though I am incentivized to do them. Same with BGG. That's been like, I think at this point, maybe a multi-year endeavor where I learned a lot in the first couple of times where it failed. And then, there is the ultimate incentive of the website at the end, but I'm not seeing that for like quite some time. And even once I get it, it's not like an immediate like super positive thing relative to the hours that were put into it. It's more so like a learning process because I'm interested in like learning how to organize people and learning how to manage, and like that was the kind of stuff that I worked in academia in like before I did streaming. And so that a lot of this is just personal interest in like learning how to do that stuff. Does that make any sense? Or
It does make sense. Okay.
oh.
So there's a few things, okay?
Mhm.
I've really enjoyed this conversation, by the way, even though I'm getting a bit
Oh.
heated. All right. So the first point I think is that one big issue that I have is that I don't like the idea of asking people to do shit for me for free. And it's probably why there's a few issues with certain aspects of like what's going on. So like I have always made sure that if I ask someone to do something specific for me, I always make sure that they're paid. With like moderators, it's kind of begrudgingly on my part, like, look, it's a fucking, I'll give you a moderator thing. I won't ask anything of you. Just turn up and moderate sometimes, like that's basically it. But you won't get paid. It's an optional thing, But the issue that you've got there is like, I kind of do that and people accept it's a role where it's a man, they don't have to turn up, they can just come sometimes and stuff like that. But the idea of asking people to go beyond that and to like do a level of research and stuff, like if I'm going to benefit in some way, I'd find it very difficult to ask that of people, to be like, oh, can you do a bunch of shit for me for free so that I can have more research for my stream. And that's not a criticism of you. That's that's my own personal views about asking people to engage in a form of labor that ends up financially benefiting me. I find that to be at the very low level somewhat acceptable with like a moderator, but when it comes to beyond that, to say research, I wouldn't be able to do that ethically in my own mind unless I paid them to do it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you have an issue with that, or are you just kind of like, well, if they want to do it, let them do it?
I think so I'm a capitalist, and I haven't had problems with that too much with the other stuff that I've been working on, because I just have a similar approach to you. Like, I can't force you to do this stuff. If you want to volunteer and you want to help out with it, if you're personally interested in doing it, if you're like a lot of the coding people on the BGG team, they're interested in seeing like we even have people that used to work at Twitch. They're kind of just interested in seeing if they were to recreate something like DGG or something like a Twitch chat, what would go into it and how would they add certain features and stuff that they would like. And beyond that, some of them want this as a reference on their resume or something like that, to say that they worked on this project, have it be up and be public, and then that's something that they can have in their resume. So that's another thing that I've learned is helpful to people, is like when they need to
pay
do
them in CV exposure. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, that's one solid one. Although I have a lot less of these problems, and we're talking about something that is all around volunteering, which is where I think you would have less of those problems. So, like, if the whole goal of the entire project is to get more people to spend more hours volunteering in their communities or on the stuff that they're interested in or the stuff that you're interested in as a streamer, I think that's a way easier sell, because you're not, like you said before, you're not kind of doing it to pad your own pocketbook. You're not doing it to make a bunch of money off of the stream. You're helping people to do things they already wanted to do in their volunteer efforts that in no way come back to you at all. Only insofar as like you enjoy the idea of getting more people to volunteer, or you enjoy the idea of like making that a part of your community or a part of what you do with streaming, and you get to tickle that itch of doing something that you know is good, like wholeheartedly. Does that track?
I mean, I just the way I look at it is, when it comes to like moderators, that's very limited. What they just have to hang. If they hang around and chat a lot and are there to ban someone if they say the N word, then great. But I think anything where someone has to take an amount of time to do something that they wouldn't like normally be doing, because I guess one question in this is like you're saying it doesn't financially benefit you, but say the booksmarts.gg thing. Like, even though now it doesn't financially benefit you, eventually it may reach a point where you're going to be making some money off of subs or something, surely.
Like subs in relation to what? Like subs during the segment where we talk about it?
Well, okay, on your Booksmarts website, is there a way that people can give you money?
There will be, yeah.
Right. So people are people are coding a website that will inevitably mean you make money off of it, right? And people will have done that, and people will have done that, and you won't have paid them for it, that have volunteered to do it, right?
Yep.
Okay, well, that's fundamentally against what I believe, and I couldn't do that. I wouldn't be able to ask people of that. That seems very unethical to me. But I don't want to turn this into, if you want to do that, that's up to you. But to me, I just would be like, no, I can't ask someone to engage in labor that would end in me making money and not pay them for that. That seems crazy to me.
1 sec. So yes, but the ask here wouldn't be for you to have volunteer devs working on a project where you're going to make money off of a website, right? Like to refocus on the volunteer thing, which is
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But
do you have any like ethical qualms with the volunteer thing in particular?
Well, in terms of like asking someone to volunteer to something that is just like, hey, you should go and volunteer in your local area. Here's how you can do it. There's not an ethical qualm there. I think everyone knows what's going on, and I'm not, financially benefiting from that. So yeah, that's a different thing.
Cool.
So yeah, but I don't know. But the problem comes in anything beyond that, anything that is more involved. Even if I said, say, a Discord that was being run that was about some sort of like, organizational thing, and someone had to dedicatedly run that. I mean, if it's just for charity stuff or whatever, then yeah, that's fine. That can all be volunteer stuff. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. And if that's the case, so you wouldn't have any qualms about the volunteer thing in particular, then that's one positive, optimistic thing from Chud Logic about the what might be a project. Because then it wouldn't be something that you would be ethically opposed to necessarily, because it would be people volunteering. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't try to like convince you to do like your own GG where you have devs volunteering time to that. Like now knowing this about your ethical framework, and I knew about it before, frankly, and I do know the exception that you make for the moderators, but still, like that definitely wouldn't be the ask of you. Just to be clear.
Okay, no, that's fine. I'm sorry. I was just interested in your views on it, but it seems like you're kind of like, well, if you're going to volunteer, let's fucking go. I in some ways, I wish I could think like that because it would make my life a lot easier. But
yeah, if you want my,
you go on.
Oh, I was gonna say if you wanted me to talk more about that, I could, if that's something that interests you.
No, I don't want this to turn into like some sort of debate about the ethics of asking people to do shit for you. It's just, I don't know. It's just interesting that you've got that kind of viewpoint on it,
Yeah, like, and it doesn't need to be a debate. Like, I think you said your position on it. Like my position is just like, I'm not forcing anybody to do it. It's completely voluntary. People can drop in and out of the project as they have time. Like, many a week, people have been like, yo, I got something going on this week and I don't have time for this project. Or we've had people that have been like lead devs on the project who've been like, oh, this is too much and I can't do it and whatever. And like, that's totally fine. Like, I don't blame and shame those people or anything like that. In terms of like why I'm okay with like using the labor for that or whatever, or even asking in the first place, it's because like volunteering in particular, I don't see too much of a problem with when it's something that those people also want to happen, and it wouldn't have happened if left to my own devices. So like there's no way in hell I could learn all the coding and write like my own GG. And so if it were not for the volunteer work of these people, it would not exist. However, if I was having people volunteer by buying and printing t-shirts that I was going to sell, it's like, well, you could do your own t-shirt thing. And you're having me do this thing where like basically the primary purpose of it is to make you money and whatever. And there isn't really a benefit to me. Like I could Hassan it and give them like t-shirts and say that I've given them the means or whatever, I'm not sure. Or I could buy them the screen printer, might be a more apt example. But yeah, those I would be kind of more cautious about. But when there's a clear benefit for the other person and they want to help with something, then I'm not opposed to it. I think what might be more ethically dubious, in my opinion, is like I've had one person in particular who reached out and they were like, "Hey, I need to do this internship thing for like my like art course in college, and rather than going out and like finding a job and whatever, I figured I could do that with you and be able to get through the semester and get my internship hours in and whatever. And between you and me, we definitely conflated a lot of the hours there and whatever. And I wrote them like a super stellar reference letter and logs and whatever of all the time that they had spent. But we did accurately like itemize all the stuff that they had done. But that they had problems with the way that the stream looked. They didn't like the waiting screen, how ugly it was. They thought that there was more that could be done with it, and I let them basically take like a lot of creative control over whatever it is that they wanted to develop or work on. I gave them like a list of things that could be done or a list of ideas, and then they picked whatever would help them like learn about animation software or learn about this or learn about that, like they would at a normal internship, except it was like a buffet table where they get to pick what it is that they want to do. But I guess that would, in my mind, be more ethically dubious than the BGG website. And those things actually don't have an immediate like economic benefit to me, but it felt weird having an intern for the first time. So there was that.
Right, so these people are basically like it's like more of an unpaid intern type situation. Is that what we're saying?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's probably the better way to put it, right? Because volunteer suggests it's for some charitable endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
That's been a bit picky, I guess. But yeah, unpaid internship, I think, makes more sense to me. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, listen, I feel bad. I'm not trying to like have a go at you or anything. We got different views on it, I guess.
No, I actually, in case it's not clear through my tone or whatever, I got no problem with any of this. I felt more uncomfortable arguing with you about plenty of other topics we've argued about. Like that, this one's fine to me. Like it's interesting to hear your perspective and learn more about it, and then just provide mine. It doesn't feel like we're arguing a ton. Like to me, this feels casual, but if you feel like it's more hostile, like
No, not
just
at all.
know.
I'm fine. I just want to make sure. But the thing is that it's difficult to figure out in my own head is like,
Mm,
why do I? Because there isn't a person out there you could find that would say that I asked them to do something and didn't pay them what they wanted for it. And I wonder, do I stick to it so closely because this is something that I genuinely believe and I genuinely want to stick to it? But how much of that is influenced by the court of public opinion? Because having seen what happened to Hassan and knowing what happened, like, I am like terrified of that sort of shit happening to me. So how much of it is genuine held belief and how much of that is fear? Like, I don't even know how I'd be able to figure that out.
yeah. Um, I guess you got to justify it based on what you're giving back to people. And I think maybe what I would say is like what's given back to people isn't always monetary. And I don't think it always needs to be monetary. Like in the case of the internship, they needed the hours. They didn't have, from my understanding, a ton of other options where they could have gotten the internship. They were doing it a little bit last minute. And so, that they got what they wanted out of it. I helped them with all the forms and all the logs and stuff that they had to do. With the BGG people, they're interested in the technology and they wanted to learn more about it, or they wanted to have a reference that they could use in their CV. So in their case, that's what they would get out of it. I think focusing on what people are getting out of it and then comparing that to the hours that they're working, and just considering that it doesn't always need to be a monetary benefit to people, like how in volunteering, you know, an organization might be making money off of their charity drives or donations or things like that, and that money is going to people that run the organization, but it's not necessarily going to the volunteers. But the volunteers are getting their own thing out of it, I suppose.
Okay. Well, that's I don't know what else to say. Okay, well let's move on to another topic, I guess, another element of this.
Yeah, sure.
You suggested some
Um,
stuff.
Yeah, we could go into the Vosh stuff recently. If you want to go back to your Spice, we could talk about Spice more generally, the future of Twitch politics. Or you could talk about your long-term goals if you wanted a more adjacent topic to this, but I doubt it.
Yeah, well, we can talk about the Vosh stuff. I mean,
Okay.
I actually had a bit of drama with Vosh recently.
Oh, what
Yeah,
happened?
it was very minor. Basically, my editor put a thumbnail out which said Vosh Vosh advocates for Republican genocide, and it was like a
Hmm.
very spicy presentation. And Vosh messaged me and was like, "I'm a bit confused about your recent video. It was, kind of like, friendly, but like, what's going on?" And I looked at it because I was kind of on a holiday, so to speak, and I was like, "Yeah, this isn't like I thought this isn't even accurate of what I thought about the video. Like, my issue is that he's saying there is an LGBT genocide, and we should engage in some form of violence or whatever to deal with that." That was my issue. I don't think he was calling for Republican genocide. He was doing a bit of like wink, wink, nod, nod, Republican senators, da da da, like, but I don't think it was explicit like enough to say that in the video. So, and then his
Mm.
fucking subreddit was popping off about it as well. So I ended up just messaging Deacon saying, "Look, man, you got to roll back the spice a little bit on that. I don't think that's really accurate." And it got changed and everything was cool. And I just said to Vosh, "Yeah, my editor went ahead with that and not really what I would have put it as." And that was kind of it settled, really. And it's funny because like a lot of the comments in the Reddit were like, "Oh, Chud's just a drama guy," da, 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 like having a go at me. And it's like the way I dealt with it was like to not farm drama at all, because that really isn't necessarily what I want to always do. Like, I could have dealt with it in a way to just maximize how much drama there was around it and just been like made a video like, "Fuck you, Vosh, and this is true and you want this," and blah blah blah. But I just think I couldn't do it because it didn't seem genuine, so that was kind of it.
Mm. So then I guess just to be clear, you don't think that Vosh is advocating for Republican genocide?
No, I don't think he's. I think that what he's the worst he's doing is with a bit of a wink and a nudge, talking about like hurting Republican people as like a form of self-defense, almost like they're coming for us, we're going to fuck them up first. I think beyond
Hmm.
that, it was you know my biggest issue with it is I just think he's making claims which aren't true. Like when he's talking about how there is, or on the precipice, or whatever language he uses, of a genocide of LGBT people. I just don't think that's true. I'm very skeptical about that claim, and I don't think he's supplied enough kind of evidence, or aside from pointing to some shitty bills that are going through, I don't think he's really supplied much evidence to really suggest this is happening. Particularly if you look in America now, I'm sure that most of it is all pride based. Da da da. People probably are worst, maybe cynical about it, or worse than that, homophobic. But generally speaking, the fact that the country is celebrating pride is probably a good sign that there isn't like an imminent LGBT genocide. I don't know.
Okay. And where do you think the issue is coming from on like the messaging here for him? Because a lot of people do seem to think that's what he's advocating for. I think even Steven has said something close to as much, if not that exactly. Like, where do you think this is coming from?
I think that I think what it is like there is. I think that people find, obviously there's a level of hyperbole that all streamers have, But I think fundamentally what it comes down to is I think sometimes we find it difficult to say that bad things are happening without going to extremities. So we can't just say, these bills are going through and it's pretty troubling that these are on the table and that there's these kind of sentiments that are cropping up, That's not juicy enough, or that's not like strong enough to really say that how bad this is. So you maybe take it a bit further. Before you know it, you're talking about Nazis and genocide. And it's like, there's probably somewhere in between everything's fine and Nazi genocide shit that you can come to highlight how bad and severe this is. And I think the other thing that as well is like, and this kind of links into my other beliefs, but it's like, what's it all in purpose of? Because what, aside from voting at the next election, what action can you take? And I guess maybe that's the other problem, is like a lack of like power or control over it. So you kind of just say the best thing you can think of, which is, I don't know, get a gun and, protect yourself, which is kind of just general good advice, I guess. But like, what more can you do really? Like, there isn't really anything you can do, unless you want to talk about some sort of more radical action, which Vosh kind of hints at, but doesn't really fully go on board with. So yeah, I don't, like, there isn't really much you can do, is there?
Yeah. And like, we're kind of hitting on why I want to try out this other project about the volunteering and stuff, is because like if we had like people that were good organizers and stuff like that, we would have an alternative that isn't like get guns and pray for the best because the country's going downhill or whatever. Like, I think we have a lot of inspirational people that we've kind of turned our head away from for one reason or another, whether it's counterpoints in his mutual aid type stuff, or it's Riley Grace Rochon going to the things that are happening about laws in Maryland, or these other people. Like, there are other things we could do, but they're not pretty on stream and they don't get you the clicks and the views and whatever. So they're definitely less enticing. And if other people haven't figured out how to do it, then it's not really a tool in your toolkit. You'd have to forge it yourself, and that's not worth the effort for a lot of people. So yeah, it's just the direction it goes with the kind of state of things right now, is there isn't like immediate stuff that that you could do. Um for sure. But like you said, I think go in the hyperbolic direction and kind of overblowing what's happening. That's definitely a choice that people are making, that streamers are making, and like we kind of need to keep bonking them on the head when they do that, because it's not even good for the cause that they're promoting. I don't think. I think it stigmatizes more people against it.
Yeah, I just, I mean, the thing is if someone makes like a spicy joke or something, I don't really mind.
Mm.
And I'm quite cynical about the ability a streamer has to influence people to do certain things. I just think that the idea that you need to go and arm up beyond just a generic, oh hey, which I think Vosh said his position was in the end. It's just like, go and buy a gun if you're worried. Like, I mean, I don't know. That seems fairly reasonable if you're in America. You've got a Second Amendment. Why the fuck not? But it's just when it's wrapped up in the idea that there is some sort of imminent genocide, it just strikes me as a little bit not a good idea. I don't know.
Yeah, like kind of adjacent to that, I've so far only reviewed like the talk that Vosh had with Rosarist. I think like putting the domino of a Republican victory in 2024 and setting that domino right next to, or only a couple of pieces away from, like the dismantling of democracy. I think that's like a really dangerous thing to do. And I think that's at least my focus with what the problem is there. But I've also not seen his other comments on the topic. Like, my understanding is he had a conversation with somebody else where he was a lot more hot-headed about it, and I think that's where some of the problems come from. Maybe you could fill me in there. Was there some other conversation that he had with somebody, maybe about fascism or something, where he went a bit further than his takes in the Rose Risk conversation?
Yes, that's exactly what happened. So he had a conversation with a sock dem called Luke, I believe.
Hmm.
And this is where he expressed, a more extreme position of what he said with Rose Risk. Because the Rose Risk conversation, I think broadly, I watched it and I was like, yeah, this is pretty reasonable. Like, this is not so bad. And then but then he said, oh, well, this is what I said before, or something to that nature. But then then I was thinking, is it? I felt like, is it what he said? Because I felt like I had a much stronger reaction to what you said before, and I find this is an issue that I have, is that and this is why I need to write more stuff down. But I'll watch something, I'll have a certain impression or feeling about it, and then obviously I'll move on, and then a bit later someone will be talking about it, and they'll be like, "Oh no, it wasn't that bad," and it makes me doubt myself, and it makes me doubt my initial reaction because I can't remember exactly what was said.
Mm.
But then you think back and you're like this is a best example I can think of really is like the Noah Samson thing. So Noah Samson was like super obnoxious in a video that he did about Debate Bros, and then he made another video and acted like he wasn't, and I was like, no, you were, I'm sure you were. And I watched some of it back and I was like, yeah, you were a total dick. And it's like, I think people have this habit of they will have a position in a video or a content they make, and then they'll soften it, but won't really admit that they're softening it. They'll act like that was the position all along. And I find that really frustrating because I try and be as honest as I can about my view or how I think about something. And when someone else doesn't, if I feel they're not doing that, I find it very difficult to deal with because I just kind of expect people to like accurately represent what they've said or what they've done or what they believe, at all times, and not change it based on the conversation they're having.
Yeah. Yeah. That like, and I think it's probably okay to change it, but you can't gaslight somebody about whether or not it changed. Like, if you're going to change it, then give me a sanity check and let me know that what you said before is not what you're saying right now. But I guess this is something I'm black pilled on, even if I advocate for it, because I think a lot of streamers know that if they walk it back, the punishment for walking something back seems to be a lot worse than the punishment for like trying to manipulate your way through it or just doubling down on a take that you might not even believe in the veracity of anymore. Like, I know I've been slapped on the wrist quite a bit harder, backing stuff down and being like, oh, okay, well, there I'm
Yeah.
being hyperbolic. Like, I don't mean that. Maybe if I would have just tried to weasel my way through it more, or if I would have just doubled down on it, I feel like the pushback would have been less. So I worry that people are incentivized to do the opposite, honestly.
Yeah, definitely. I'm no angel. I'm sure that I've been guilty of that sort of thing in the past, but it is just frustrating because it's like the term gaslighting gets kind of overused a bit, I think. But yeah, it does make you kind of doubt. You're like, what? Like you think, was I wrong? Like, did I fuck up when I watched the original thing? And then sometimes you watch it back and you're like, no, I didn't. You have absolutely changed what you're saying now, and you're not being honest about that. So it makes it seem like you're irrational. I'm irrational, but you're the one that's actually done something wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it wasn't like super egregious with the Vosh thing. It just was a bit annoying because I was like, I'm sure it was worse before, but yeah. But yeah, overall, I think that I mean, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe there'll be the trains getting loaded up with queer people before we know it, but I just am very skeptical about the idea of this genocide thing, and B, yeah, I agree that like with the Republican thing, are there some nutty Republicans? Yes, but I think there are also still Republicans who have got this kind of like commitment to the civil religion of America and do believe in the Constitution and do believe in the mechanisms of government, even if they've got political disagreements. And I think making them all in the same camp as they're all unhinged Republicans that want to undo democracy, and that's going to happen in 2024, it just comes across as fear-mongering. And even if people don't do anything about it, I think one thing I really don't like is this idea of using your content to make people afraid. Like, I just hate the idea that there's people that are sat there afraid and worried when they probably don't need to be. It's like, be aware enough that you take whatever action you can, but don't be like fearful and afraid. That's not a good thing for anyone,
Yeah. Yeah, like, especially if you're blowing it out of proportion. Like, I don't have a problem with people going on and talking about like, dude, the climate change papers say that like cities are going to be underwater. That's fucking scary. Maybe we should be making steps to fixing this. But like, when you're kind of overblowing and creating, I think, a really convoluted narrative about how things are going to get like 100 times worse in the span of like 8 years or something like that, then we're running into some problems with that. And that's fear that's coming about through like an over exaggeration or a really tinted lens of what the truth is, and I think that's worrisome, especially when maybe like you are somebody's main or only source of the news on these things, and they take your opinion like super duper seriously, and they assume that you're doing that homework and that what's being presented to them is real, even if you might criticize those people and be like, "Oh, you shouldn't listen to Twitch politics, then you fucking idiot. Why are you getting your opinions from here?" I still think like there should be some responsibility on the streamer, at least socially in the community. Like we should keep popping them on the head when they do it. And about the Vosh thing, I'll be doing like a line by line through that where like I review it off stream and I look at the whole transcript. So I'll keep an eye out for what the statements were in the past and see if they're like significantly different from the rose wrist thing. It sounds like you did that yourself. You like, did you look back on it and see like, oh, I'm not crazy. This was a lot worse when he said it before.
I think, yeah, I can't remember exactly. I think that maybe I just watched like a little bit of it and was like, okay, well, I don't think I did like a massive detailed look into it. I kind of covered the Rosarus conversation and moved on because I had other stuff I wanted to talk about. But I think what I need to do is, yeah, I need to either, well, what I want to do is if I'm got a chance of speaking to someone whose content I'm covering, or like it's going to be more straightforward to get a hold of them, is to write stuff down. But I haven't started doing that yet because I'm an idiot.
The boring part.
It is the boring part. Yeah, that's true. But it's very easy to do when you're watching a video. You can literally just have a notepad up and put in quotes of what you want to maybe talk about with them. But yeah, I think that yeah, I didn't really look into it in much more detail. I just kind of was rest assured that what he'd said was pretty, you know, beyond what he was saying with Rose Wrist. But
welcome to
Chud
Nation.
Like, I might go back on that kick. I think you remember from the Mind Waves days where I was a bright little young book, and I was like, "You all should be taking notes. If only you took notes, this stuff would go a lot smoother." Maybe I'll go back to that because I don't think it's a huge ask. And like you said, we're already pause champing through the whole fucking video. And if we're watching it off stream and it's at like 2x or something, I think it's even easier. With YouTube transcripts, like there's really not a ton of an excuse not to, but it is a bit boring, I suppose.
Well, no, I think, you know, if it is an important thing to do if you are in any way going to engage with the person that is on the video, because then you can give them direct quotes and then they've got a choice. They either have to say, yes, I did mean that, Giga Chad, or they have to say, no, that's not quite what I meant, and clarify, and then you've got the clarification, you know? Whereas at the moment, it's kind of like you can only really talk about how you felt about something because you can't remember the specifics, you know?
I remember how disappointed Book was in me still because of the notes I didn't take.
Aiko says that she remembers how disappointed you were in her because you didn't take notes. Because she didn't take notes, sorry.
Yeah, but that was mostly because my dumbass, and I'm definitely not doing this anymore, spent like hours with Aiko talking with her about it and helping her figure it out. But I don't invest myself emotionally or temporally in that way anymore, so it doesn't happen.
But yeah, I mean, the thing is like, you know, I've got no, you know, I know there's a lot of people in that watch me that like there's this whole thing in Destiny's community that about the Vosh manifesto, and that's a big thing at the moment. People keep memeing about how it's not coming out, and there's people that don't like Vosh. You know, Vosh is a big reason that I got into streaming. So even if I've got like a disagreement or an issue with him, like it's going to take a lot for me to kind of like turn on him and be like, yeah, fuck this guy, and make loads of content shitting on him, you know, because I've got no kind of cause to, even if he does say things which I think are wrong or I disagree with, or even are, you know, excessive or bad or wrong or whatever it is. You know, it's not something where I'm just going to kind of randomly turn on him and shit on him, you know?
Yeah. Do you ever feel concerned about shitting on the bigger people that are in your orbits and stuff, or is that not really a concern given your stream size now?
I mean, obviously I'm only human and I get angry sometimes. But I try not to like just shit on people. I might be a bit choice in the language I use, but I try not to like unnecessarily shit on people, or like, you know, I might call them a dickhead or a bitch or an asshole or stupid or something like that. But I do try my best to just give an accurate representation of what they've said, or like what I think they've said, or my interpretation that's fair, and react to that and talk about that rather than just randomly shit on people, you know? So yeah, I think like with Hassan's a good example of this. Even though I've got some issues with some of the stuff Hassan says. The other day he said some stuff about Ethan Klein that I agreed with. So I was kind of like, yeah, I kind of agree mostly with what he's saying here,
Yeah.
So I try and approach it from the point of view of like what my genuine beliefs are, what they're saying, whether I agree or disagree, regardless of who it is, and going from there. So I think if it ever does come to a point where a bigger streamer, say, watches some content I've done about them, yeah, there might be some choice words sometimes, if, maybe. But I don't think they could come away with the perspective that I'm just kind of like randomly shitting on them, It's going to be that I've got some real big disagreement or some issue with something they've said or done,
Yeah. Kind of bringing it back to something a little bit related to that. What is your process with your editor? Like, do they send you, and I presume the answer to this is no, do they send you the thumbnails and you approve them like before they go live, or like what's the workflow there?
So basically, when it comes to DK, it goes like this. I stream, and he will find what he considers the best content, edit it, do a thumbnail, do a title, and put it up. Occasionally, if there's something that's particularly juicy or spicy that he knows I might have some sort of issue with, he'll message me and say, I'm thinking about this title. Sometimes I might go, oh, yes, fine. Or other times I'll go, yeah, no, that's too much. I don't want that like on the YouTube channel or whatever. So he'll change it. But that's only for like things that are maybe particularly close to me. Whereas most of the time, probably 9 out of 10 videos, he will just make the thumbnail, do the title, do everything, and then just put it out. Now, obviously, sometimes I'll see on the things, I check YouTube every so often and see what he's, put up and stuff. And it might be that I see it and go, oh, I'm not sure about that, and end up messaging him. But most videos are going to go out without me having any kind of direct insight on the title or the thumbnail, or any of the editing, really. That's it, basically.
Okay. So it's like a pretty... Well, I mean, so it sounds like it's a pretty hands-off affair. My thoughts on it are that it doesn't take... I mean, okay, so before I say this, I'm not trying to get you to change the relationship there, because it's working, and that's what's important. Like, I guess getting titles and thumbnails approved is not like a super time consuming process most of the time, depending on your availability, I guess. Like I do that and have done that, especially since we had an issue with Mr. Girl in the thumbnail. I don't think going back that it would have changed anything. Like I still would have approved the Mr. Girl thumbnail. But I'm definitely more hands-on with the titles and thumbnails as of late. But you have a system that's working for you, so like I wouldn't advise to change it. That's just the way that I do it, I guess.
So that's interesting. So I think this probably comes back to maybe like because the way I see it is DK knows YouTube better than I do, and I want DK to have like I want to be someone who it's not like I'm the boss or something like that, right? Even though that is the more traditional structure that would exist. It's that he manages the YouTube side of things. And if there's anything that I think is particularly wrong, I'll obviously bring it up. But I just kind of want to give him the autonomy. I like the idea of giving people autonomy to do what they're going to do. Because at the end of the day, the way I see it is, if I'm going to be involved in something, I might as well do it myself because, I'm a bit of a control freak. But if I've got someone there who's got the expertise, it makes more sense to just hand it off to them. And then if there is any big issues that come up, it can just be dealt with on an as and when basis. Because out of hundreds of videos, I don't know how many, like about 100 videos now that have come out, there's been like more serious issues that I've had to deal with on like 2 of them, which is the Vosh video and the Dario video that came out a little while ago. Other than that, there's been things which I've been worried is going to have an impact, but I've kind of just thought, let's see what happens, and it hasn't really been that big a deal. So sometimes it can be that maybe I'm just worrying a bit too much about it, but actually when it comes out, it's not a problem, and people are just kind of like, accepting of it and watch it, and it helps the video. So yeah.
Yeah. I I guess if you were to have more contact with them, you could glean some of the information, insights, and decisions that they're making about the title and thumbnail, and that might be helpful for like future content maybe. Like I know for sure talking with my editor and then having my editor talk with other editors like August and stuff, there's been a lot that we've learned and like a lot of like information sharing behind the scenes about like how to edit things more efficiently or how to design thumbnails more quickly or branding or these other things. And so that there's the benefit that I see in the communication, like especially if you feel like you don't have the insights that DK has, like being able to learn more from DK might be a benefit of that. But again, like I'm not like advocating you change it or anything, just trying to figure that out.
No,
And if for
sure.
the most part,
Yeah.
like they always hit it out of the park, then that's grand.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like, it's we have constant communication.
Mm.
We're always talking about whatever's going on and, content and stuff. I'll communicate the best content I think that's around at the moment. But there's been times in the past where I've said, "Oh, I think we should do this content. I'm really keen on it," and we do it, and it doesn't really do anything. And often it's like when he's got an idea about something and we kind of roll with it, that's the content that tends to really fucking pop off. So it's like, he does have a real eye. It's like I think that letting people do what they're best at is how you can make things flourish, and that's how it's always worked for me in the past. But yeah, there's definitely like communication we have already. But I just don't think I could have it set up where I have that much control over what someone else does, where it's like I've got to approve or disapprove of any thumbnails that come out, even though it reflects on me. And also the other thing as well is like sometimes it's kind of fun to have a bit of drama that comes off of that, because then it's something to deal with. If I wasn't away, I would have probably milked the Vosh stuff a bit more. Not in a way that was shitty, but just I would have made more content about it. Being like, oh God, you won't guess Vosh messaged me about this, and oh God, DK, what are we going to do? Da, da, da. But I wasn't streaming, so it was kind of a bit of a missed opportunity, So sometimes, even though it's a bit annoying and stressful to deal with some random drama, it can add a bit of spice to have that bit of like uncertainty that something might come out that causes me a bit of trouble.
Yeah, because if it doesn't end you, I mean, it could certainly benefit you. Even if it's like a misplay or you get criticism or stuff like that, it could still benefit you in the end, which is like the trippy thing about the drama and the spice is like the spice works in mysterious ways.
Yeah, definitely it does. Do you know there's some sort of study or something that shows that if a customer has a bad experience, like that reduces their satisfaction by like say 10%, right? But if I'm using simple like terms here, but if you deal with that complaint or issue in a really good way, it can actually then end up increasing their satisfaction by 10% over what it was before. So, that kind of, by that logic, even if people are pissed off with you about something, if you did, and this isn't like something where I'm conniving and like, oh, I'm going to do something stupid to like do a good job of dealing with it, but it just highlights that, yeah, even if you fuck something up, if you deal with it in a really good way, it can mean that it ends up with a better outcome than if it hadn't happened in the first place,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it gives you that opportunity. It's almost like a whole new topic that you get to cover and a new opportunity to cover it in the right way that like it does something good for the brand, like handling controversy well and coming out looking good at the other end of it. Like you said, could be like a net positive overall. Like, oh, I remember when Chud has his faults, he gets this and this wrong, but he generally handles that really well. Like that has a benefit in and of itself, and maybe some people overlook it and are too cautious with their content. Maybe.
Yeah, and I think that's something that definitely I have made the mistake of before, is that being a bit too sensitive, or not sensitive, but like, yeah, being a bit too concerned about what's this going to look like, what's that going to look like. Like I remember the first video that I specifically remember DK doing for me was a video basically shitting on Bad Bunny, right? And at that time, like she'd been a bit shitty. She'd like quote tweeted some shit about me, or retweeted some shit about the grooming allegations from ages ago. And I was a bit like, oh God, I don't know about this. Should we do? But DK, put the video out, and at the time it was like absolutely smash hit video that really popped off. And it's like, yeah, and really that was kind of like, I think with DK, it's really unlocked my channel to be able to do more drama content, because I know that he can turn it into a really good YouTube video Whereas before it was like I had to do more structured segments, you know. So now I can be a bit more loosey-goosey with how I do things, and, you know, it doesn't have to be that it has to be a super structured segment. I can just talk for a couple of hours about an interesting topic and it could become a good YouTube video, you know?
Yeah. Out of curiosity, where does DK's YouTube knowledge or expertise come from?
Oh, he used to do like League of Legends stuff. Like he used to be like a 200 viewer Andy League of Legends streamer, and stuff like that. So he's got like a lot of background in esports and stuff.
Oh, okay, that's sick.
And basically he was like, you know, Destiny viewer, Relly, watched me, and he just messaged me and said, "Hey, if you did this with your YouTube videos, they do a lot better." And I was like, okay. And then we started talking, and I realized he was like an editor, and he seemed to know what he was talking about. And I think the thing is like, if someone wants to do something for me, they've got to kind of make themselves present a lot. Like, you've got to be in the DMs and saying, oh, you know, I can do this for you and I can do it well. And that's the biggest problem I notice, is that people aren't like persistent enough. Like, there's a bunch of artists I've had in my time where I've been interested in doing something with them, but they've not chased the lead enough, right? So I just kind of, they end up going down my DMs and I forget about it and I can't remember their name, and then it's gone, you know? So I think that's a big thing. If you're like an artist and you want paid work from a streamer or content creator, you got to be like fucking on their case, you know? Not in a way that's like constantly 5 missed DMs, but just like a couple of days later, oh, hey, just checking in, what, you know, wondered if you wanted to set up that chat so we can talk about this thing we wanted to do together. You know, that can be really valuable to actually getting you across the line, because streamers have so many messages, and even at my level, like by the time I end a stream, often I'll have got so many messages through. The person that messaged me at the start of the stream is off my screen on Discord, you know, and it's just sometimes just bullshit that isn't even relevant or important, but you just forget, oh, I need to message that person back about that thing, you know?
Yeah, you have to chase down those leads. Like, if you're an artist, you're making your money on commissions and stuff, like, to an extent, that is your work, that is your business, and like staying on top of DMs and leads and stuff like that. I think that's good advice to any artists that are listening to this, for sure. Because your clients are not the ones necessarily always like, you know, chomping at the bit to work with you. I think you have to do some work to like close the sale with them, especially with streamer people. Like, we get so many DMs and Discord shit and like you know, chat messages and drama and whatever. Like, our brain is like so many places at once that like the friendly reminders aren't annoying or anything like that. I mean, they could be, like you said, if you have like 5 unread things in a row, that's kind of like cringe. But I think we need more help than people realize with like reminders and stuff.
Well, yeah, if like, you know, if an artist messaged me and said, "Hey, Chud, I hear you've been thinking about doing some merch for a long time, but you never got around to it. Here's some examples of my work." And then they were like, you know, "I will charge you X amount to do this much merch, and I'll arrange all the back end stuff for you, and I'll do the store," and it was an amount that was affordable, I'd probably just be like, "Yeah, okay, let's do it," you know? You know, if someone was that direct, like, and I think people are scared to do that sometimes, you know? And it's like, I get these emails sometimes from companies, and they're just like meandering, like, "Oh, well, we're this company," and I stop reading. I'm like, I'm not interested. Like, you know, tell me what you want to do. Tell me what, for a sponsorship, what do you want me to do? How long do I need to do it for? And how much are you going to pay me? And that's it. That's all I'm interested in. I don't give a shit about your fucking VPN company, okay? Who fucking cares? It's not about that, is it? It's about like, what do I need to do and how much will you pay me? And it's like, it's the same sort of thing with artists. It's like, you don't need to give a big old story. You just need to say, "This is my work. If you like it, this is what I would charge for this, this, and this." And then, you know, I think that works a lot better for me anyway.
Yeah. How do you handle the sponsorships that don't want to give you a number and they want you to constantly make up the numbers and make up the integrations and shit like that? Like, how do you handle that?
Yeah, I've had a few people like that are like, you know, "How much would it cost for this on your channel?" And it's like, I feel like they're kind of trying to take advantage, because, you know, to be honest with you, especially with like YouTube, I don't know how much it is for a 30-second spot on you know, I'd have to ask DK because he probably knows more about it. And, you know, I feel like it's a bit trying to take advantage, because some streamers aren't very savvy, so they will give away sponsorships on the cheap, you know. But yeah, I mean, I tend to basically, I want people to tell me how much, because I'm not an expert on how much it would cost, but I just think, based on what they're asking me to do, am I happy with this? And if it's yes, you always want to try and squeeze a bit more. Generally, though, if it's like an amount, you're like, okay, that's kind of, you're comfortable with that. You might be wanting to do a kind of light push on maybe getting a bit more. But generally speaking, yeah, you kind of want to get from them, I think, you tell me how much you're willing to pay me. And then if it is really low, normally just like doubling it or tripling it and saying, no, this is what I would want for it. And then hopefully you'll meet somewhere in the middle. I don't know. That's kind of a rough guide, I guess, of how you would deal with it. But yeah, I think that those people that ask you, it feels like they're trying to somewhat take advantage of the fact that you're probably not going to know. So yeah.
Yeah. Because I've had ones that go like 15 emails deep where they're beating around the bush with like just asking a gazillion questions and never giving me any answers. Like, bro, just name your number and what integration you want. Like, I'm not going to come up with this for you. I'm not like a marketing lead for this brand or whatever. Like, your budget. You can look at the metrics, and if you need any, I can provide them to you. But like, that's your call to make. It gets kind of annoying when we're like 15 emails deep and I still don't know what it is that they want to pay for what they're asking for. It's been really annoying lately. Um,
Yeah, definitely. I think the streamer world is rife for companies to come and take advantage because, especially at the smaller end of the spectrum, a lot of people don't have like any experience in the business world, and I think it was actually Destiny that said this. I remember him saying this. It's like you've got to operate like everyone is trying to take advantage of you because they probably are, and you've got to be quite savvy to be able to navigate these kind of offers and stuff like that. Like the biggest thing was the Artesian Builds thing, where they were doing this ambassador scheme where it's like you advertise our shit, and if someone happens to buy a PC, we'll pay you. And maybe you can make that work, but generally speaking, if someone's getting a space on your channel to advertise their shit, that's something you should be charging for, even if it's a nominal fee, because they're getting access to your viewers. That's how advertising works. You pay for advertising space and hope that people come through off the back of it.
Somebody in your chat mentioned spending, and I assume they mean this about artists and not streamers. And my question will be about streamers. Spend 50% of your time on your art, 50% of the time on the business and networking side. What percentage do you feel like of your time do you spend on like the business and networking side versus like live time?
Not enough is the answer.
Mm.
So I used to kind of let it basically for a long time. It was all consuming, and I would just be constantly, whenever a message came in, whenever an email came in, be constantly checking, constantly replying, constantly responding, constantly accessible via DMs. And I think that recently I've realized that just isn't sustainable. You can't be available all the time. And if you like try and contact a big streamer, you'll notice that like they don't message you back straight away. Like they're off doing shit probably, not being at their desk all the time. So what I'm trying to work towards and what I want to do is have it so, I start at say 10, which is 4 hours before my stream, and I spend 3.5 hours doing whatever shit is required for the day, looking at content to review or responding to emails, responding to DMs, whatever it is, and then go into my stream and then switch off afterwards. I'm not quite there yet, but yeah, I think that like streaming is somewhere where you're gonna probably have to do long hours. But yeah, I think 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, dedicated more so to like admin or working out what fucking new emotes you're gonna do, talking to an artist, doing this. I don't know, like there's loads of shit that can be done. So yeah, I think that probably of a day, 30% probably needs to be dedicated to more of the business management kind of stuff if you want to take it more seriously.
Okay, 30%. Gotcha. Do you do any kind of like time tracking?
No. I tried it and just didn't bother with it. And I need to have it where at X time I sit down and I do shit, and then after my stream I spend 30 minutes and then I'm off, and then that's it. Because this is something I think that if you're a new streamer trying to take it more seriously, don't be online all the time. Have time where you're fucking away from all this shit, because it will drive you mad otherwise, constantly being plugged into all the bullshit that's happening. Yeah, I
And then
don't know.
you'll
It's
stop
yeah.
streaming because you're a
Yes,
good doomer.
exactly. You'll become a doomer like me, and you'll be fucked. But yeah.
Yeah, but not a successful doomer. You'll become a I quit. This fucking sucks. You all suck. You'll be that kind of doomer.
Or you'll be the yo-yo doomer that quits streaming and then comes back in a couple of weeks, then quits streaming, then comes back in a couple of weeks. See that quite a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Although, I mean, with some of the people, I am happy they come back, but it's a vicious cycle, and it's sad to see because what leads up to that down period must be rough on them, and it probably makes the things they are doing in life like less enjoyable because their mood is ruined and shit, and it's sad to think about. Um,
Yeah, I
but
mean the thought of like giving up streaming, that like God, it would be. I'd feel a bit embarrassed, to be honest. I'm not saying they should feel embarrassed, but like for me, I mean, if they're like not full time or whatever, that's fine. But like, yeah, I'd feel like Jesus, like fuck, I've fucked this up.
mm,
And you know, I think if you're doing it part time, that's whatever. It doesn't matter. Or you're just doing it as a hobby. But I think for other people, it's kind of like it draws you back in. You know, you're like, oh God, there's this drama happening, all the shit I want to talk about. I'm going to do a stream, and then you do a stream. But you know, streaming's not good for your mental health. People underestimate it, but it really isn't. You know, it's I think any sort of thing where you're the center of attention doing this sort of shit is probably gonna fuck your head up in some way or another.
yeah, if you're not doing a good job of managing it, you're kind of leaving it up in the air. Like I see people in my chat and in your chat mentioning this happens to me. Like, yeah, for sure. I think it happens to most of us that at points it slips. In terms of like quitting for some prolonged period of time, not really for me personally, I don't think. Like there's time I take off when I move and stuff because I move countries like every 2 or 3 weeks or something. But like knowing that you're gonna take the time off and knowing it in advance and not having that be an emotional decision is like way different from like you hit some fucking breaking point and then you quit.
Mm.
And for like beyond that, I think having doomer moments on stream and like talking seriously with your viewers or whatever about like your future in streaming or whatever, while still like not the greatest, and I do that, I do think that's very different from like saying you're gonna quit and then quitting. Like I don't know. Like I think have you had moments where you're streaming where you're like, dude, if this doesn't hit these marks or I'm not making enough money with this right now, then like I can't keep doing it? Like
Um, so I am always someone who will always ask people for money every stream, and I'll
mm,
make a kind of joke out of it. And fortunately, like I've got myself to a position where, like, you know, I've made what 20 about 30 dollars today, which is like not a lot of money, but like it's not a massive deal. I'm not like panicking about it, you know.
mm,
And you know, fortunately now I'm working to a position, especially with some recent sponsorship, where there's going to be a bit of a cushion, which won't last forever. But I just know that if I have the odd off day, it's not going to be the end of the world. But yeah, I do think there's some moments where, I mean, viewership in particular at the moment is kind of a bit trickier, for like a number of reasons, I think. So there's some streams you do and you're like, oh damn, viewership's down a little bit, and you're kind of like, oh, but you know, you just got to kind of ride the wave and know that the peaks and troughs are part of streaming, and viewers go up, viewers go down. There'll be something that happens where a bunch of people come back and want to see what you got to say about it, you know, and you just got to kind of ride the waves as they come and go.
mm.
Some people panic, and like
Welcome
there's
to
certain
Chud
streamers
Nation.
who like Haas is a great example of this, where Haas had this kind of like dip in viewership, which is just a normal part of streaming. But he kind of freaked out about it and was like saying he ended one stream because there weren't enough viewers and this kind of thing. And it's like, yeah, that isn't like the right way to go about it. You know, you got to just try and manage it as best you can and accept that peaks and troughs are just part of the business. It's like anything, you know, you have a shop, and shops have busy periods and quiet periods, and you might have a quiet month and you're like, damn, things are a bit quieter this month. You know, don't let that turn into 5 quiet months. You know, understand that it's maybe a little issue, figure out if there's anything you can do differently, implement that and move on. You know, panicking and shit is like the worst thing you can do if you're like a self-employed person, I think.
Yeah, letting the emotions guide things is not good. I think probably the best advice is to like diligently track like how many subs you're getting, how much money you're making a month, what your viewership per stream is based on the topics. Like, I think the ideal advice, if we could like Thanos snap someone to follow it, is to like track all that stuff and look at it periodically. Like, spend that 30% time you talked about before, in part at least looking at that for maybe 10 minutes and like logging it and being like, all right, this stream I didn't make a lot of money, but this time last year I also didn't make a lot. Or, oh, but there's not drama this week, so that's probably why. Like, you can make more rational conclusions about what's going on when you're tracking it. You have like a log of what's been happening. And if you don't, then you're leaving it all up to emotion. And it might not even be stream that's pissing you off. It might be something in life. Like, I get really stressed out when I travel a lot, for instance. Like, if I'm not getting a lot of sleep too, like that'll impact things. And you kind of don't want to leave it up to those human elements. You want to kind of rely on the numbers and the history. And the only way to do that is by like keeping track of it, because that's not where your brain is going to go when you're emotional about things or you're having a bad week. Like, you're not going to be like, well, let me just sit down and take a look at my numbers and figure out why it is that this is like this. Like, it's not really the way that humans work. So you got to do your due diligence in the good periods as well as the bad, probably.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the thing is people don't. I mean, I think people here get it on the whole, and most people do that watch your stuff, but some people just don't get, and they just I don't know what they think. They think it's just like you turn your stream on and you turn up and you just fuck around for like 8 hours, and it's like, well, somewhat true, you do fuck around, but like there's so much more to it when you're doing streaming as your sole source of income. You know, it's very different to if you're just a 30 viewer and you're doing it as a hobby. And it's kind of like so you have some people that write as a hobby, right? And because some people write as a hobby, or if anyone thinks they can write, people view it in a certain way. But you have professional writers who their profession is to write shit. They write a movie, write a book, whatever it is, you know. And that's a very different ballpark to just doing it as a hobby. And I think that one issue you have is people just don't take streaming seriously as a profession because they don't. They see it as a hobby, or they see it as something that people do. You know, I get lots of things. Oh, can you make money doing that? And all this other shit that people say to you. And it's like, yeah, that's, you know, like anything. You've got the hobby that people do, but then you've got the doing it full time and doing it as a self-employed thing. And it's, you know, a very different thing that you do, really. You have to think a lot more about it, and there's a lot more on the table, a lot more that can go wrong, you know?
Yeah, once you're taking it seriously financially, you gotta make sure your mental is in it as well. You gotta start treating it differently, and that's, like, a hard transition. Like, I think that happens to people once they get, like, to the past the partner point, because the partner thing is, like, an easy thing to focus on and getting the viewers and whatever, even if you're not making a lot of money. Then after that point, you're just kinda, like, floating in space and you have nothing to grab onto or, like, orient yourself with. And so at that point, like, all right, if you're going to do this professionally, like, keep an eye on what matters. Like, how much money are you making doing this? Is this a hobby? If it's a hobby, you have to worry about a lot less. And if you're treating it as a hobby, don't get mixed up in your brain treating it like it's a job. Like, don't worry about the viewers too much. If this is supposed to be a hobby and supposed to be fun, don't worry about subs. Like, don't worry about donos. And if your mind is worrying about the subs and the donos and shit, then, like, well, it sounds like you're thinking about it like a business. So maybe you have to start treating it like a business and kind of make the decision in your brain if that's what you want to do or not, and then stick to whatever decision it is that you make about that.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. And I think that, you know, it's this is why it's important as well that if you do have a desire to go, you know, full time with it, is to make sure you're in a position where you can actually do that. Like, I remember once I saw some streamer complaining that Twitch don't give a big enough cut, and that she's been a full time streamer for a year now, and it's like you look at her views and it's like 50 views, and you're like, yeah, don't try full time streaming on 50 views. Jesus, that's like, unless you've got some massive Oilers, but even then, that's a big risk because your Oilers can dry up and fuck off, and then you're screwed. You know?
yeah. And don't pick problems that you can't solve to focus your attention on. And this goes for anybody regardless of like if it's about a job or life. Like don't stake all your happiness and your fulfillment on some shit that you have absolutely no control over. Like don't make it about like the cut that Twitch gives you because you have no fucking way of changing that. It was how it was when you started and it will likely continue to be that way until you're huge, at which point maybe it matters even less to you. Like I think focusing on this shit that's outside of your control is like a bad habit I see a lot of people get into with like all sorts of things, whether it's politics or business or whatever else, seems like.
Yeah, that's so true. This, yeah, you see it constantly, and that's the one of the big problems with some of these smaller streamers is the absolute laser focus on all the shit that they've got literally no control over, and the endless complaining about it. Yeah, it's like, what's the point? Like, yeah, sure, have a whinge, have a moan to your friends, but people just post constantly on Twitter about this, that, and the other, and you're just like, geez, like, focus on what you can control, bro. Like, that's gonna turn out much better for you in the end, and you're gonna be a lot happier too because you're gonna have feel like you got more power over it. You know, if you're just worried about the little that Twitch pay you, in your opinion, and you're focused on that, it's just like gonna make you super negative. You know.
Yeah, for sure. And all that energy you're wasting on this shit that you're not going to be able to change is energy that doesn't go into like fixing what the problem was. Like if you spend all that same energy on like making the stream better, getting more views, figuring out more like revenue sources, responding to emails, any of the administrative stuff that we talked about in the background, like you probably would have gotten more return on the dollar for that emotional energy that you're wasting on this other shit. Um, and again, that applies whether you're a streamer or you have a regular job. Like if you're wasting all your time thinking about political stuff you can't really like change or you don't intend to change, like what else in your life is suffering because of that? Like you probably know what makes you happy or like what you enjoy doing or like what's important, what are the real things you need to focus on, and like this might even be a distraction from like confronting what you actually need to work on. And part of that frustration might come from knowing that you're stressing out about some shit that has nothing to do with what you need to be doing. Like if your growth is what's stressing you out and you're at 50 fucking viewers and not making enough money, like your problem is that you're at 50 fucking viewers and not making enough money. Your problem isn't that Twitch isn't giving you a bigger revenue split, right? Like you're kind of putting all this baggage onto some shit that you can't fix to maybe feel better about it or do less, and that's not productive.
Yeah, definitely. But that's, I mean, we've got this new show which me and Roger need to catch up about it. But we're doing this thing called Streamer Nightmares, which I think is going to be quite fun. I don't know if you've seen it.
Ooh, no, I haven't. What's that about?
So basically, small streamers can apply. At the moment, it's like 10 viewers average, roughly, or around that figure, and we're going to maybe change it. But in any case, they can apply and say, hey, you know, my stream isn't going how I want it to go. What do you think? And we kind of like watch their content and we review it and we see what we think is good, we see what we think is bad, and we give advice about it. And that's it basically. It's like we talk to them, we go and watch the content, we then talk to them directly. And the idea is it draws a bit from Ramsey's Kitchen Nightmares, giving people some shit for doing stupid stuff. So it's kind of like that's the entertainment part, hopefully. If someone's doing some real stupid shit or they're arguing with like what they think is going to work when their stream's like shit, that's hopefully going to be the content that comes through there. So, but it should be interesting as well, even if you're not that into. I mean, obviously people that watch Ramsey's Kitchen Nightmares aren't restaurateurs. They don't give a shit about good restaurant practice. They just want to see some contention, or maybe they've got just an interest in how a restaurant runs. So then maybe they've got some interest in how a stream runs and what you should do to grow it and stuff like that. So yeah, hopefully it should be good.
Yeah. Who are like the main judges involved in this right now?
Oh, it's just me and Rhizome. That's it.
Oh, okay. Just you and Riza. Okay, okay. Because I know that Gappy V, I don't know if you've seen, like he does a lot of advice for streamers on like his Twitter and stuff. Like,
Yes.
have you reached out to him at all?
Well, this is like a passion project for me and Rhizome, but I think in the future
Mm,
it would be good to like have like guest judges come through and stuff like that. I think that'd be fun.
yeah,
Um,
because having one person be like the super duper positive, like that one lady from American Idol, I forget what her name is. Um, you know who I'm talking about?
Yes, yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Like maybe having one of those would be cool. But that's awesome that you and Rhizome are doing a passion. But maybe that'll help with your doomerness. You'll be able to do something you really, really want to do that's not like drama all the time or whatever. That sounds like it'd be fun.
Yeah, I think to be honest with you, it's nice to kind of do something where, even though it's not like some directly political thing, it's like using some knowledge that I've got to maybe help someone else out in some way. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I think that could be
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, like Rhizome's grown pretty well since he started, and he didn't start all that long ago. So I guess he would be a good
Oh,
person there.
that's not quite true actually.
Oh, really?
There's a bit more lore there. So basically, Rhizome started his channel ages ago, like years ago, and he was doing the
Oh.
kind of like little box in a camera, watching a Jubilee video and talking about it, and he had like 10 or 15 viewers. And he realized that his stream wasn't quite what he wanted to be. So he took 3 months off and he kind of like did a bit of a blueprint, right, what's the situation here? What's this? And he figured out what he wanted to do with his content. So he came back. He had a really fucking nifty 3D overlay thing. He had loads of like chat commands and loads of interaction from chat that you can do, loads of cool graphics, all this other kind of shit, right? And basically, he sorry, what is going on in chat? Why is there this fucking weird bullshit argument going on about kissing? Can we just sort that out, please? And yeah, basically he came back with all of these ideas, and he came out really strong with his stream, and people now watch him because of all these new ideas that he's implemented. People are like, oh, what's going on with this guy? And he's become like, and there's some other stuff happened to him. He had like a debate with Hassan, the Red Hassan debate about the
Mhm.
cracker thing. So basically there was this kind of other stuff that happened too, but he kind of took that and capitalized on it with his new ideas and content, and now yeah, he's like, 200 plus viewers, I think, in the course of a few months, when before was away, he was getting like 10, 15 viewers a stream. So it just shows that, like, it's not always going to work necessarily, but at the very least, having some ideas and trying to implement things and change things up are potentially going to have quite a profound result on your viewership, rather than just kind of, doing the same thing or like just doing what everyone else is doing.
Yeah. Huh. I guess I'll see how a few of these go. Maybe I would apply just for shits and giggles. I think that would be fun. When do you do the first one?
Oh my God, wait, I've got it. We've done the pilot episode and we've got lots of things we want to kind of change and adapt. Because
Mm.
what we want to do is like more of a series of it. So we'll do like, say, like 6 episodes of it. We could do celebrity streamer nightmares. And then we have people that are a bit more, prominent already, and they come on and have their streams assessed. That'd be fun. But yeah, I'd love to have you
Ooh.
on there. You could obviously be on the celebrity one, okay?
Oh, wow. Thank you, Chud.
No
How
worries.
flattering.
It's all good.
Yeah, that'd be fucking fun. What are I don't know if you could leak this or not. Like what are some things you guys learned from the pilot episode that you'll be implementing on future ones?
So I think we want to have an application process. The person we had on was great. No, their name was stupid. Namane or something like that. But oh God, they DM me. I just remembered. I need to remember to DM them back. But yeah, basically Nanamame was good. I think that like that was the only person that ended up coming through, and it was a bit short notice. So we're gonna have more of an application process, so it feels a bit more involved, where basically people have to like apply like you would apply on a TV show almost. So you have like an application form, and you got to film like a little thing where you say why you want to come on, and then we'd make content out of reviewing that on stream. So we'd watch the streamer's stuff, we'd look at the application, we'd kind of tear it apart a bit and like have some memes. So yeah, we want to kind of create an application process out of it, and I think just like making things a bit more structured, so we know where we're going from point A to point B. Those are kind of the main things we took away. But yeah, there's loads of stuff we want to do to make it like a really good show. Like we want to have it where, it's a show that's on every time on a certain night, like a normal TV show. So you kind of turn up to watch it at that time. So yeah,
Hmm.
hopefully it should come out good.
That'll be fun. Do you have like a backlog of people interested right now, or is building that up part of what you'll do after the pilot?
So yeah, me and Rhizome need to catch up about it because he's been busy in the run up to the school break. and I've been away. But yeah, we're going to catch up and really finalize some stuff. But we've not got anyone yet. We haven't really done much like outreach or marketing or whatever you want to call it to get people to apply. So, you know, the next step is to really get in place what the application process is, and then we're going to go from there. So yeah, it should be good.
Sick. Well, definitely keep me updated. Like, you know, bothering streamers and DMs is necessary to get them to do stuff. But like, I would be super interested. It sounds like a fun project. And when the first one comes out, if you could remember, DM me it because I'll definitely watch it. It sounds like fun.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we've been talking for 2 hours.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good spot to close it up on, probably.
I do think so as well. Did you get everything talked about you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, basically. Because a lot of what I wanted to ask was actually answered even with this last thing. Like I was curious, like, what are some medium to like long-term projects you're working on? And it sounds like this streamer nightmares or streaming nightmares is going to be one of those things. So I'm excited to see it. And I think we'll have plenty of time to talk about Spice and your opinions and stuff like that over time. I'm
Yes.
just yeah, I'm trying to get out of my shell more and do more talks like this. Obviously, like talking with you is not so much getting out of my shell because we have before, but like I don't think I collab enough. Maybe that's like a streaming nightmare tip that I'm not following because like I think you need to collab and market more, and so I'm trying to do that by like reaching out to the people I know already or that I watch, and then kind of expanding out from there to find new streamers to make friends with or market with and thank you for helping me with that. I'll get better at it over time. Be more interesting.
No worries. No, it's thanks for coming and being a little pill of joy in my pit of despair. I really appreciate that. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. It was fun. Thanks for talking to me, dude.
It was good. We'll speak again soon.
Cool. Sounds good. Do you want to promote yourself to my people in case they don't know who you are? Get your shill in.
Yes. Hi, my name's Chud Logic. I'm a British guy that I talk about shit on the internet. Come and watch me. Chud Logic on all good social media platforms. Now you promote yourself to my audience.
Hi, I'm Booksmarts. I look at conversations and I give people advice on how they could have gone better. I also do art and video games occasionally. So if that interests you, feel free to stop by on YouTube or Twitch.
Okay, thanks, mate. Good to talk. I'll catch you later.
Yeah, talk to you later. Bye.
Okay, bye. Sorry, one sec. Right, sorry about that. How's it going? I seem to remember to reply because I'll never remember a voice. What the fuck was all that in chat about? What is going on? What's this all about? Apparently this Nocturne Records got banned from the got banned from the Discord for some sort of weird shit. What is going on? Nocturne Records normally well behaved. What were they doing? Okay, well if it's dealt with, it's dealt with, I guess. Hey, thanks a lot. That's really generous of you. Oh my god, Yowlits! Thanks for $20. Appreciate that. Yeah, listen. Okay, I feel like maybe there was a bit. It was a bit much of the mod action, maybe. But like, you don't be fucking weird about it, bro. Like, don't fucking message people and like that. What the fuck? Oh, it was a timeout. If there's a timeout, that's fine. Listen, if he's being weird, we maybe need to deal with that. Oh, is it not? Listen, Nocturne, it sounds like the right decision. I don't know if I can unban you. Just DM me with some shit and I'll look at it, okay? I can't just unban you from the Discord anyway. If the mods have done something about it. I untimed you out because it seemed a bit much. The mods here are soy. Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah, just everyone send me the... I'm not going to look at it tonight. I'll probably look at it tomorrow morning, but send me the DMs and I'll see what we're going to do.